What did your family think about you going into?
How to get along with other people and how to act as one when you're in a group.
What unit were you in?
Basic training, you know, the number of the unit escapes me at this time. We were all numbered units down there, but I can't recall. We're going back quite a ways now.
After training, what unit did you join?
I joined a KC-135 Tanker Refueling Wing at Grissom Air Force Base in Peru, Indiana.
What was the highest rank that you held?
Tech Sergeant.
And how did you earn that?
Taking standardized tests that the Air Force gives, and you also have to wait a certain amount of time to increase your grade.
You were also in a unit in Syracuse. What unit was this?
174th TAC Fighter Wing.
Was there anything unique about this unit?
One of the, well, I watched this unit grow because when I first joined it, they had what they call 837 aircraft. And they went to 810 TAC airplanes. They were basically tank killers. And then they evolved in the F-16 fighter, which was still flying at that unit. And I was with all three of those airplanes.
How did you get along with the people in your unit?
Oh, the National Guard people were pretty easygoing. You got to remember, a lot of people there were part-timers, so they were civilians from varied walks of life, and so they had a lot of interesting stories to tell and background. So we had quite a bit of camaraderie.
You had to go to Saudi Arabia. When did you leave for there?
I believe it was December 27th, 1990.
How did you feel about this?
Scared, sad, and uncertain, but we were called, and that's what you do.
How did your family feel?
They were worried, but they buckled up and just waited until I came home.
What did you think of the country itself?
Well, when you're flying over the country, all you see is sand. When you saw green, you knew that area was irrigated. I'd say 95% of Saudi Arabia is a desert. So you kind of knew what you were flying into.
How did the civilians of Saudi Arabia treat you when you were there?
We had very little interaction with the Saudi Arabians. The ones that were at the base there, we had dealings with them as far as catering for food and laundry facilities, but overall they seemed to be happy that we were there.
What was daily life like when you were there?
Pretty regimented. You knew you were going to be on duty for 12 hours at a time. So after that, it was either get your rest or try to occupy yourself with some activities. A lot of guys went to the gym, a lot of guys went to church, and a lot of guys did a lot of running over there just to keep occupied.
Did you have any special activities that you like to do?
Yeah, I learned to go to the gym and work out my frustrations in the gym.
What were your main duties while you were there?
I was a radio aircraft dispatcher with the 174th, and I basically handled the crypto material that the pilots used, and also kept radio contact with the pilots on the ground and in the air.
What does crypto mean?
It's they're code signs that pilots use to identify themselves and identify the area they're in. And without those code signs, they could be mistaken for an enemy and actually fired upon. So it's very important to have that crypto available.
Do you think your training prepared you for these duties?
Well, without a doubt. That's pretty much what the Guard does every weekend. 1 week in a month there's training involved, and that's pretty much the reason that that's done. So if there's a war, what we'll be ready.
Were you ever in any combat?
Not direct combat, no. I imagine if it came down to it, we'd all be issued, they would have broke out the M16s and issued all to us, but then we'd know we were in big trouble. So, but being an aircraft wing, we were in direct line of fire.
What were the dangers of a chemical weapons attack?
Very high. That was probably the biggest concern about all the troops over there, was to make sure that the troops were safe as far as from chemical weapons attack. That's why the chemical warfare gear that you had was probably one of the most important things to keep track of and never leave your side.
Was there a lot of gear that you had to wear for it?
Yes. In fact, it was pretty heavy, and you had to get used to it, and the weather wasn't conducive to it, so you had to stay hydrated.
You mentioned something about color-coded for the weapons.
Right. If there was a chemical, there were different color codes for a weapons attack. A green signal meant the area was all clear. Yellow, if there was a yellow message put out, it meant that there's a possibility of an attack down the road. And red meant there was an actual attack in progress, and black meant there was nerve agents present. And if the condition was black, it happened twice by us. If it was, you were fully suited in your chemical warfare gear with your mask on.
Were you ever wounded or ill while you were there?
I wasn't wounded. Everybody got sick at one time, a point or another over there. I don't know if it was the food or whatnot, but basically flu-like symptoms were through the whole base there.
What was the food like? What did you have to eat?
The food was pretty sparse. They did bring us fresh fruit, but powdered eggs were on the menu. Type of toast. I'm not sure it was the toast we ate at home. They had chicken once in a while, but it was pretty basic fare over there.
What happened if someone got hit by the nerve agents?
Well, again, if you were experiencing a nerve agent attack, you had an atropine pen with you, your pin, and it was an antidote for nerve agent. And basically, you would plunge it in your outer thigh and hit the button, and it would inject you with an antidote. And once you've used that pin, you'd hang it from your suit so they would know that you've used it, and then try to care for you from there.
What about SCUD missiles?
They were a missile that Iraq, that was their primary weapon over there, and I believe they got a lot of them from Russia, and their range was anywhere between 300 and 600 miles, and very fast. And for where we were stationed, you had maybe 30 minutes notice that one was in the air.
Were there a lot of them used against you?
Not our particular base, but he fired a lot of them. In fact, he fired them in all directions. In fact, 6 of them landed in Israel, and the Israelis wanted to retaliate, but we told them we were taking care of things, and they sent a lot of Patriot missiles to Israel to try to knock those missiles out of the sky.
Did you receive any medals or awards for your service?
Well, our whole unit was awarded the Southwest Asia Ribbon for being over there.
Were you allowed to keep in touch with your family?
Well, there were sparse phone calls. I did have the fortunate experience of being stationed near a Mars tent, which is people on radio communications that have a radio that's like a, what do you want to call them, a ham radio operator. They go by the the airwaves, and I could call home on that at certain times of the morning. A lot of times I'd use that to make a call home about 4 or 5 in the morning, if the conditions were right. If the atmospheric conditions weren't right, you couldn't get the call through. But other than that, there's a lot of letter writing.
Where did you live?
In a 10-man tent, and you got to know those people pretty well over there.
Did you get along with them?
You had to. There was no choice in the matter.
How were your relations with your officers and your other men in your unit?
With the officers, it was pretty much a professional relationship, because you knew every day somebody could get killed, so you pretty much kept the joking to a minimum. As far as your comrades that you lived with, it was a little more loose and easy.
Is there one person or a couple people that you remember most?
Well, there's one guy, his name was Sergeant Mike Mertens, and he was the one that pretty much helped me work out my frustrations at the end of the day. And he'd take me into the gym or jogging, and we'd do a lot of activities together.
Do you believe that American involvement was justified in that war?
Oh yeah, at that particular time in history, if we hadn't gone in there to remove Saddam Hussein from Kuwait, there was a good possibility he'd just kept on going. And Saudi Arabia was especially fearful, and they had no problem with us setting up air bases in their country to repel him.
What do you remember as being the most interesting or inspiring event in your military experience?
Well, I had quite a few of them over there, to be honest with you. Obviously, the one was when we were told the war was over. That was very nice, and we had a gathering of the whole unit to congratulate. We were given congratulations by the wing commander of what a job we did, and that made everybody feel proud to be an American at the time.
When did you return to the United States?
It was in May of '91.
How did you feel about coming home?
Well, I was wondering if they were going to recognize me. I was as brown as the desert, and I'd lost about 15 pounds, so I wasn't sure they were going to recognize me when I came home.
What did you do first when you got home?
Let's see, well, when I got home it was 4 in the morning, so I pretty much hugged everybody in the family and then went to bed.
How did the people feel about you coming home? How did the civilians treat you?
We had a unique experience when we came back. We flew into Maine as our first port of entry, in Bangor, Maine, in fact. And when we got off the airplane, the whole town had turned out, and they had set up a big buffet for us, and we're all patting us on the back when we came out, and these were total strangers, and everybody was stunned by that reaction. And these weren't our families; these were just normal, everyday civilians that greeted. So we knew we had the support of the whole country behind us in this particular conflict.
After you came back, what occupations did you have?
I worked at Griffiths Air Force Base here as aircraft controller until 1995, until the base was told they were closing, and now I work for the U.S. Postal Service in Utica.
Do you attend any veterans organizations or reunions?
Yes, well, I always attend a reunion in Syracuse once a year with the 174th Fighter Wing, and I also belong to the American Legion in Camden.
Do you still maintain any contact with any friends you made?
Well, yes, I still visit some of the. There's some of the original people are still over there at Hancock Field, and I still go and visit. And also, since my son's a member of the unit now, I get to visit more often.
And how do you feel that your military experience influenced your life?
I just think it gives you a center of gravity and self-discipline that probably no other occupation could give you. You pretty much learn on how to be self-sufficient. I think that's what the service really instills in you, how to take care of yourself, which I appreciate a lot.
Do you have any things you wanted to show us?
Yes, in the class earlier, I forgot that we had these masks that get the sand out. And so we would put these on a lot of times when there were sandstorms. I didn't mention it, but there was a lot of sandstorms over there. And these things punched right to your face. Now if you wore glasses, we had little inserts that you could put in these that were prescription, so you could see. But a lot of times we were filling sandbags, and there was dust storms or sandstorms out there, and we'd be wearing these over with our helmets over them. So they came in pretty handy.
Other than sandstorms, how was the weather like there?
Hot and dry, and you had to stay hydrated with water. One thing I talked about earlier, there were 6 units over there. 3 were active duty and 3 were reserve. And they're on the back of my shirt. You can see them there. And if you look in the center of this shirt, we all formed what they called the 4th TAC Fighter Wing. So all those little individual units were melded into one. And there were 3 F-15 fighter units and 2 F-16 fighter units and 1 C-130 cargo unit. And we were all formed in one wing, and some of them were active duty and some were reservists in Air National Guard. And we all melded into one unit, which was kind of a first for a major conflict. Anything else?
Not that I know of.
Okay, well, I appreciate you inviting me over here.
Thank you very much for doing the interview.
Yeah. This is my favorite picture from when I was over there. I've always been fascinated by camels, and as soon as I saw one on the base, I says, well, I got to get a picture of this. I didn't ride them, but I saw them in the wild there, and it was quite an experience. I got to pet one with a Bedouin family over there. Those are people that are like nomads, move from place to place. But this is kind of my favorite picture from when I was over there. Okay. I should have showed this. See, I was going to show this in class and I forgot about it.
Today's date is October 27, 2004. My name is Jen Dixon, and the camera person is Alicia Anderson. We are interviewing Donald Andrew Baranowski, who was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He had a high school diploma before he entered the service. He entered the Air Force because he didn't know quite what he wanted to do. He wanted to travel, and he already had family members who were in the Air Force. His family thought that it was a good idea. He received his training in Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas.